We would like to thank your sponsor, Wylie First, a division of First West Credit Union and a member-owned financial cooperative serving the Okanagan, Similkameen, and Thompson regions. They offer a wide range of banking and investment services for individuals and families. Wylie First also has a talented business and commercial team to provide the expertise, products, and services local businesses need to grow and thrive.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Business Matters presented by Wylie First, a division of First West Credit Union, where we delve into the stories and insights of leaders and change makers in our community. I'm your host, Rob Capello, and today we're joined by two guests, Taylor Wylie, General Manager, and Tony Weller, Director of Sales and Marketing from Anodyne Electrics Manufacturing, and we're going to say AEM for now on, so I don't have to pronounce all of that, if that's okay. It says in the background, so I won't forget. You guys are a leader in electronics manufacturing for the aviation industry, so thank you guys for joining me today.
Wonderful. Thanks for having us, Rob.
No problem.
Yeah, great to be here.
So you guys are fresh off, I'll say fresh off a win as a 2023 Large Business of the Year award at the Kelowna Chamber of Business Excellence Awards. So I'm excited to sort of uncover a little bit about all the success and what you guys do. But I was saying before we logged on that I suspect, like most people, might have not have heard of you, who you guys are. And I got to learn about an amazing company in our backyard over the last few days as I was researching you guys. So maybe you can just start by telling us a little bit about who you guys are. We see an awesome picture of you guys' building in the background, so which is great. So, but maybe tell us a little bit about who you guys are and what you guys do.
Yeah, for sure. As you mentioned, we're a leader in design, development, and manufacture of aircraft communication systems, loudspeaker systems, mission radios, caution warning panels, and then our airframe crack detection compliance sensors as well. So we're a vertically integrated facility. We've got a big operations department, which incorporates our electronic side, faceplates, metal shop, and then our CVM, our comparative vacuum monitoring production areas. But we also have a full R&D team working on development and launch of new products and support of existing products, as well as a full sales team and a technical support team in development as well to kind of take us into the future. We've been in Kelowna for, as AEM 14 years now. We opened our doors in October of 2009. It stemmed from an employee buyout from the previous company, Northern Airborne Technologies. So when we opened our doors, we had 55 employees. I am very happy to say almost 15 years later, or 14 and a half years later, 20 of those original employees are still here. So yeah, we've been a big part in the community. We moved facilities just recently from Kirshner over here onto Crowley in the end of 2021.
Very interesting. And I'm curious, maybe, I want to touch a little bit about sort of the history, but before we do as well, is maybe if you guys can let us know a little bit about your individual roles. And I always like to ask sort of what the day-to-day looks like in your, and I know it's probably different every day, which is sort of the fun things about being in business, but maybe you guys tell us a little bit about your guys' individual roles within the organization.
For sure. Tony, if you want to lead off.
Yeah. So Director of Sales and Marketing. So I have the sales and marketing team reports to me. And so that encompasses both we'll call our sales and order processing elements on the sales side, our external facing salespeople, but also we have an extended sales force as well. So we have a network of distributors, dealers or integration centers, and technical representatives that help us throughout the world. So we've got products that are installed and are flying on pretty much every continent. Antarctica would be the seventh continent, and we actually have a project underway right now where we've got 3 aircraft that'll be going down and operating out of Antarctica with our kit on there. So we're almost there. That'll be so that's pretty exciting. And the marketing team obviously reports to myself as well. So I'm responsible for kind of guiding that for the organization. And ultimately maintaining and growing sales and support of our products globally.
Cool. Thank you. How
Awesome.
about you, Taylor?
I'm the general manager here at
Okay.
AEM. So I've been here quite a while and performed a lot of roles. I started as an electronic technician and worked my way all the way up into this seat in the general manager position. So primarily, of course, the strategy side of things
Right.
and the vision and the development and growth and movement of AEM and our global position and what we want to do there. But of course, I've got a big operations background, so I do tend to spend a lot of time on that side of it and understanding it and just sort of working those efficiencies and working on improvements as well. So the leadership team reports directly to me, but I
Okay.
do have a big part in the day-to-day. I do try to be involved as much as possible. So but primarily I'd say strategy, vision, and guiding the company and moving it forward and what's our next steps and what is tomorrow, what is next year, and what does 5
Right.
years look like.
So how did you guys start? I was curious if we kind of go back to when you started with AM, like how did that come together? What attracted you guys to the company? And you've been there for a while, actually, obviously Taylor, and I assume maybe to you, Tony. Like, so what originally attracted you to AM?
So for me, I was actually from NAT. So prior to that,
Got it. Okay.
yeah, so I graduated Okanagan College with the electronic technician program.
Okay.
So was really just looking to for lack of, I was looking to work indoors at that time.
You're
at
like,
that
I needed a job, Rob.
Exactly. So I applied here at NAT. It was one of the biggest ones in Kelowna at that
Right.
time, but I knew a couple of the previous employees at NAT and they sort of suggested it. And at the college, of course, NAT had a big involvement with it, as AEM we do as well too, and hire a lot of the local
Right.
graduates. So that's sort of where I stem from. So it was more just out of what was there, what was available. And then, yeah, started NAT. And when the opportunity came to join AEM, I loved my time at NAT
Right.
and just wanted to be a part of that, the growth and the development of a new company and what it could do. So 15 years later, 16 total, and here we are.
Interesting. How about you, Tony?
Yeah, for me, so I was fresh off completing a postgraduate program at UBC in sales and marketing. Was working in Vancouver as a sales manager for an organization there. And for our family and for myself, we were looking for to combat the increasing cost of living on the Lower Mainland, and B, looking for a new challenge to help to take advantage of that education experience that I now had under my belt, and serendipitous timing on a number of elements there. But AEM was also looking for a sales manager to come in and properly set up a sales system to help the company prepare for growth in the years ahead. So I was hired by the vice president of business development at that time. And then as he was transitioning out of the organization towards retirement, he basically also had the opportunity to train me up to kind of take over a lot of his roles and responsibilities. And then, from there, I was able to kind of continue to build the team underneath me.
That's great to hear. Like you don't hear a lot where people get into a company and you're there and the opportunity for growth. Like that doesn't happen a lot nowadays, which is great to hear. So you guys are doing something right. And that kind of brings me to sort of that transition when you guys were at NAT and you went into AM and now, as an employee owned, you mentioned vertically integrated company. How did that legacy or like influence or even shape your guys' culture today? Like, cause it must be a very tight-knit culture, very, when it's employee owned, you guys have been there for a while, there's opportunity for growth. So can you speak how that transition would have, because if I read right, literally Friday NAT closed and Monday you guys are open as AEM. I think that's sort of the progression how it happened, right? So
yeah, for sure. And like you say, initially we were employee owned. That was the start of AEM. That's shifted and transitioned. SMS, our parent company, took over ownership.
Got it.
Yeah. But as you talked in that the NAT days, the real pride and joy of everybody at NAT and now even at AEM was you were a world-renowned brand. People knew the equipment that you were working on, so people took pride in that. And you had your own development teams making those products, but then you had your operations, your production teams putting them together, which was a unique opportunity when you've got it all in one facility.
Right.
As an employee and as a production worker and working and building these units and going on to aircraft, you actually get to see the aircrafts it went on and hear stories of how it affected the operators. So that passion and that desire and ownership of our product at NAT really carried through to AEM. When we opened the doors as AEM, unfortunately, we were only a contract manufacturer at that time. So we didn't have any of our own products or any of our own developments putting out. So that fire was still there in those 55 employees. And it was within the first 18 months, we already started looking at what does an R&D department look like? How do we start building the foundations of that and getting back to building our own product and building the legacy of AEM and what it is today? So it really did that desire to and ownership and passion in product is I think the biggest thing that carried over. And as we move towards 2024, and we've got an exciting product launch in a couple of months here, you really can feel that excitement internally again, and really that desire and that passion for working here at AEM, but then seeing what you built with your hands flying off the aircraft and hear the results and the feedback of it. So
I mentioned you guys
maybe just to add to that,
for sure.
From a culture perspective, and it's a conscious decision as well for us to continue in that. I think it's easy to let your standards slide, but
for sure.
For us, there's no other way. So it's a conscious part of our hiring process is, okay, do they have the skills and abilities? Yes. But I think culturally a fit as well. Because if that's not going to work, then our values are compromised, our ethics are compromised, and ultimately the product is compromised, which means the customer is compromised. And that, in the world of special mission aircraft operations, that doesn't work.
It's interesting because you read a lot about even if a person's a top performer, if they don't fit in culture, it's time to get rid of that person, right? So because it will influence everybody else within the organization, right? It can seep through everywhere. So it's interesting, that model. So I'm curious. I know that your guys' clientele isn't in the Kelowna market, but it's home for you, and it's where where you guys work and where the team is. What did it mean to you guys when you won the Large Business of the Year award for in the Kelowna Chamber of Commerce? Like, what did that recognition mean to you and the team, even though, like you said, your clientele isn't here, but this is where you live and breathe and you guys work day to day? So
for me, it was exciting. It was a huge accomplishment to see, as an aviation company, and we've all heard of supply chain woes through COVID. That was a major one, and you experienced a little bit of suppression to your growth, and it was difficult to kind of get through it. So to move through that, and then for me being my first year in the new position, it was quite an incredible achievement and accomplishment. But as the team, and I think what was the most exciting was people and everyone, how much they saw the community, or how much they realized the community saw us now, and how it kind of opened up those eyes. You might not know, but Kelowna is really a huge growing cluster for aviation companies. There's about 30 plus of us here. So to win the Large Business Award was one thing, but to be a manufacturer and an aviation company as well, I think it just really put the cherry on top and kind of made people, give them that little bit of sense of pride and of what they're doing is not only recognized, to your point, globally on the products that we put out, but now to see that locally and be recognized for it was huge, and put some big smiles on people's faces.
I imagine. Yeah. Your hard work pays off. Tony, I'm curious, you mentioned sort of the geographical area that you guys cover from a client perspective, but I'm curious if you can speak a little bit about who your clients actually are. Like, who do you guys actually work with? Like, who are the people that you're working with? Where would you find your products, for people that are listening, maybe to make that connection?
Yeah, for sure. I think to pull it to something locally, recently, of course, the large fire event that took place earlier this year. So you would have seen a lot of active aircraft, both fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft operating on that fire.
Right.
And I'd be willing to place a fairly substantial bet that there was something on every aircraft that came out of our factory, whether it was our product specifically or something that we made for another company within the aviation industry. there would be something on one of those aircraft that came from Kelowna. And we had aircraft here that, like the Sky Crane with Ericsson, is coming all the way out of Oregon. But even something as as famous as that within the aerial firefighting community is going to have something on it from here. And then the new product that we announced towards the end of last year is we're hoping is going to become an even more integral part of those firefighting operations throughout North America and the applicable other regions within the world, like Chile, Australia, New Zealand, these kinds of countries. If we kind of step back another layer from that, pretty much if you're a law enforcement or customs border protection type aircraft, you're probably a candidate for our products as well, depending on the airframe type that you're utilizing. The Texas Department of Public Safety, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, great customers of ours and heavy users of our product. And then you step back outside that another layer, and you start looking at in Japan, Europe. Basically, if you're running in the law enforcement, search and rescue, emergency medical services, what we call the alphabet agency type world, is you're a candidate for our product. Yeah.
Is there a lot of competitors in your space, like to do what you guys do? Like, is it a very competitive market?
It depends on the product category for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, it is certainly a competitive market, and so then it comes down to product feature set, quality, support. Those are the key things that the customers are looking for as they're choosing a system or product to be installed on their aircraft.
So how do you guys, with so many like diverse clients across the world, how do you approach customer service and client relationships? Because you've got such a broad, like, and far reaching, but it's still such a technical and specialized industry, right? Like, so how do you balance servicing someone that's miles and miles away from you? You know what I mean? And like, so how do you guys approach that part of it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We're sitting here in Kelowna. It's probably, it's not a terribly advantageous time zone to be dealing from. By the time we get up and operating in the morning, New York's 3 hours ahead, Europe's 8 to 9 hours ahead, and it's bedtime in Japan, right? So you kind of have to work in creative fashions there. I mentioned our external sales force, and they're a really huge part of it for us. And so we basically end up with a competent individual or organization on the ground in that region who speaks a language, knows the local business customs if it's horribly different from how we operate in Canada, and has enough technical know-how that they can at least provide that kind of first layer of support, or acknowledge the customer and go, hey, I'm going to get you an answer on this, and make sure AEM is aware and we can escalate it appropriately. And then of course sometimes you just have to stay up late or get up early. Or we also spend I would say a fair amount of investment for a company our size on getting FaceTime with the customer or the operator as well, because that's really important. Obviously through the pandemic times, you get used to doing the virtual type meetings like this, but you're limited to a certain standpoint on what you can actually achieve on those. And sometimes you just have to go there, and that's what we do.
Part of the business.
And then and part of my role is making sure that we've got the right partners in the right places at the right times as we continue to grow and expand. And we expect more of our partners, and our customers are expecting more out of us. We're constantly refining and reviewing that.
Interesting. I'm curious, and maybe Taylor, you can speak to this, is that, has the industry changed for you guys a lot, like over the years that you've been involved? Like the products that you're manufacturing or selling 10 years ago, are they quite a bit different than today, or do you kind of like, do they all look and feel the same? There's not a lot of growth or advancement in it.
It's a very healthy blend of both, to be
Okay.
honest with you. So, of course, with aviation and aircraft, and you hear and you see, even just talking of the 737s in the air, you've got aircrafts that are 20 plus years old, 15
Right.
plus years old. So, a lot of our products have a huge lifespan, and then even after the lifespan is done, and you've come out with the next generation of it, you still support that legacy product. So, we've got loudspeaker systems, faceplates, panels, and things like that they were built in the mid early 80s, and we'll still get those in for a repair and support that. But as we move into that next generation and the next projects and the next upgrades, so to speak, on them, we're starting to really see changes, of course, with software and
Right.
component sizes. So
Right.
historically with electronics, lots of through-hole components, manual board stuffing, one-sided, not very compact. You look at a phone now, you can see what technology and electronics are in that. We're not to that scale of fine components, but the difference between when I started to now is tremendous as we look at surface mount and the capabilities of units, software development, and what that's allowed us to do and to program into it. But then also just the demand from the end customer as well of wanting a reliable and functional product sometimes means that product has a really long lifespan.
Right.
With it, they resist the change for it. So when you go into development for a new one, it's imperative that you have an understanding of what that end user is going to use, and not just, to Tony's point, who's selling that product, but that the actual operator, the person who's going to be touching, feeling the products we're making, to get that input is absolutely vital. So it's kind of an interesting shift as we go. On the CVM side, or comparative vacuum monitoring, of course, that's a totally different means of technology that's been in aircraft before, and for crack detection and compliance in that. So it's that I would say is dramatically different than the electronic side, but surprisingly, it's more functional changes than it is the aesthetics and the feel of it. So Tony, if you've got a little bit more talk on that.
To put it simply, aviation is expensive, and it's expensive for a reason, because there's a massive safety factor that's involved there. You buy a sound system for your car and you install it aftermarket. Something goes wrong with that. Maybe there's an electrical short. Like, that's the worst that could happen. But so you pull over the side of the road, or you turn it off, you go back to the people who installed it or whatever, and you get it fixed. But in aviation, when something goes wrong, gravity starts to take over, and that's a problem. So there's such a massive layer of certification, redundancies, qualification that goes into these products to make sure they're safe to go on the aircraft. And that certification effort for the product itself, and then the product onto the airframe, is another level of cost to it. So once you've got something that's certified to be used on an aircraft, it takes a really long time to get to stop using that thing. And oftentimes when we're signing up for contracts, particularly at the OEM level, there's a requirement for us to support that product for the lifetime of the aircraft, which is between 15 to 25 years, depending on the type of aircraft it is and the role that it's in. So now you start kind of thinking about that, like that's the layer of investment that goes into a product, but that's also the layer of investment that goes into an inventory piece from us as well, right? So we have to have spare parts and components and things on hand, and the capability to be able to manufacture or support that product through the lifetime. And then, so now you look at the 737s, for example, there's 30-year-old 737s flying out there. That they're going to keep flying for a couple more years here.
Interesting. So how do you guys balance two sides, actually? How do you foster sort of that creativity and innovation within your team? But then how do you balance innovation, like you were saying, with you have to maintain quality and reliability and functionality? Like, sometimes those two don't go together, right? You can't be super creative and you will need to keep that. Like, so how do you guys foster that, and how do you build that within the team?
You want me to keep going? Yeah, for sure.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Right. So it like you say, it really is, you can be innovative and you can be creative, but you really do have a sandbox to play in.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
predefined.
you have to. Yeah.
With regulations, certifications, all of those, those sort of put the checklist out there.
Yeah.
Go, okay, if we're making a product, we need to get this environmental side of it or whatever it may be, certification. On the flip side of it, though, you get a little bit of creativity in how you achieve that and how do you get there and how do you have the customization. And I know especially on our R&D team, they love those challenges. They love that ability of going, all right, leave it with me. Let's see what I can do. How do I, I've got to make it in a box this size now, as opposed to, it's an inch less depth or a little bit less wide. What can I do with that? So a big part, what I would say, and I know we've done it in the past and we'll always do it in the future, is when we have our designers able to talk to, end customers, end users, things like that. It allows them to kind of look at what they're doing and look at it through those lenses. So yes, they've got a sandbox, they play in a checkbox that they need to get everything checked off for certifications and everything. But then they get that extra little bit where they, they're talking to a user and they're like, oh, wouldn't it be just great if I could use it? And that's where it is. And it could be as simple as, reorganizing and modifying menus so they're a lot easier to use. So a user only has to hit 2 buttons as opposed to 5 buttons. So you kind of get that level of it. But I mean, I think with any engineering and anything like that, we've got the electrical side, mechanical side, software side. I think that's where they really get the creativities as well too, and refining and efficiencies and processes. And if a new program comes out or a new ability to draw or a new ability to mimic something prior to it going out, I think that's really where you get that
you see it
and that motivation to keep going, understanding that you might not be developing and researching the latest thing that no one's ever thought of, but you are adding features and usability and friendliness to it in that sense.
So given that, what's some new innovation? You guys mentioned a new product launch. What can you speak about? What's new and exciting in your guys' world that's going to be upcoming in the next 12 months?
I'll let you talk on that.
Yeah, well, the radio obviously is a big one. There hasn't been a new product into that specific market for a long time. So we're really excited about the improved capabilities that we believe we're offering into that space. And Taylor mentioned the sandbox, if you will. So our team has a really good understanding of the boundaries of that sandbox and then what that enables us to do internally. And part of it as well is the vertical integration side of things is, yes, we have our engineering team who are thinking of ways in which they can design or add features into our product, but they can also incorporate the brain power and experience of our production team to go, okay, I want to try this concept. Can we actually do it? And so then there's an opportunity there to experiment, conceptually upstairs, but physically downstairs as well, where we can go, okay, let's try that bend radius on this machine. Let's try this with our 5-axis router. Can we learn this new soldering technique so that we can use this component? Those are all really key conversations that take place within the building. So from the radio side, it's going to decrease the pilot workload, decrease the maintenance workload for the maintenance teams, for the operators, really improve their ability to make changes within their channel sets and things, because an aircraft will be operating, fighting a fire in Kelowna one week, and then that fire gets put out and that company accepts a contract across the border in Idaho. So completely different channel requirements, completely different operational requirements. You don't want to pull a radio out. You don't want to have to send it in for programming somewhere. You need to be able to quickly do something so that you can become as active as quickly as possible on that fire. So there's not only is there a public safety element to that, and that you're trying to contain that fire as quickly as possible, but from the commercial side for that company is they've signed a contract, so any downtime means they don't get paid. So it matters on both sides of the fence there, on the radio. On the loudspeaker system side, we'll have a new product launching out in the first half of this year. So it's an elevation on our design. So we're improving the sound pressure output level of our current system offerings. And that came about from some robust discussions with one of our OEM partners, saying that, hey, you know what, guys, we have this system here, but it's not quite good enough for us. How else can we achieve the result that we need so that we can be confident in installing on the aircraft, and that our customers will be confident utilizing it? So that was a really good exercise for us to go through. It's a completely new design for us. But of course, I mentioned having the production team available to go, you know what, here's what we're thinking. This is the box we're thinking of building. We want to do these kinds of things with it. To have them on hand to go, yeah, we can try this, or yeah, we can absolutely manufacture that. So let's, we can continue to improve our design processes that way. So, from an output perspective, to help customers, help the listeners understand, we'll effectively be doubling the audible level of our system's output. Yeah,
you guys have a lot on the go.
It's already really loud, but it's going to the human ear.
Yeah,
double in volume again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, lots on the go from you guys.
Yeah. And then of course, then there's some other development activity that's taking place. Is always looking to either optimize the manufacturability of the product.
Right.
So Taylor mentioned, you've got a circuit board that's 20 years old and it's got these old components on it. Can we redesign that board to put it into a smaller form factor, more modern components on there, so that we can reduce the risk of obsolescence, but still maintain the function of the unit, so that we can then offer the customer a lighter unit with a higher level of reliability to it, because every ounce of weight that you can save on an aircraft also really helps.
100%.
So that's an important thing that we're looking at as well for our products moving forward. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, lots on the go for you guys. Thank you for taking some time and talking today, and love just I know it's a quick insight. I'm sure we could talk for another hour on it. So just the insight of AEM and the guys' culture, and I can see why you're awarded Business of the Year. I think you guys have built something pretty special there, which is pretty cool to hear and see. Like I said, it's always nice to see stuff that's happening in our backyard that we might not know of. So thank you for giving us some insight and talking for a little bit today. I really enjoyed it.
No,
for sure. I like to call us the biggest little company that no one's ever heard of.
I love it.
Because we won the Kelowna Large Business of the Year, but in reality, in the greater scheme of things, we're actually kind of small. But we do some really cool things. We get on some really interesting aircraft, interesting programs, interesting customers.
Very cool.
But we're also working closely with the local organizations such as Alpine Aerotech, Alpine Helicopters, Innovative Aerospace, KF Aerospace, all these kind of smaller groups that are part of our ecosystem here, and you can see more visibly on a day-to-day basis, particularly in the summertime.
Yeah, exactly. Now that next time I'll see that, I'm like, hey, I know what's in there. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for taking some time and talking.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
You bet, Rob. Pleasure. Thanks.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review and share the podcast with your friends. And until next time, thank you for tuning into Business Matters, and have a great day. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
We would like to thank your sponsor, Wylie First, a division of First West Credit Union and a member-owned financial cooperative serving the Okanagan, Similkameen, and Thompson regions. They offer a wide range of banking and investment services for individuals and families. Wylie First also has a talented business and commercial team to provide the expertise, products, and services local businesses need to grow and thrive.